already seeing the beginning of almost not quite hyperinflation yet, but very high inflation as expressed by the value of the metals. No government, nobody tells you that actually is not. Inflation doesn't mean prices are going up. It means the value of paper money is going down.
Ladies and gentlemen, another month has passed. My goodness, and here is again our Q&A session with Egon von Greyerz. That means a whole year has passed. What a year, by the way, Egon. Great to see you. We have very interesting questions.
Yeah, well, I look forward to that. Good to see you too.
Gold 4,400, silver 69. This market is really on fire. But let's begin with some general questions to your storage services in Switzerland. Number one, what is the minimum investment amount required to make an investment in von Greyerz high security warehouse in Switzerland worthwhile? How can one open an account in Switzerland with the requirements and ongoing costs are so high?
Okay, so yes, we help high net worth individuals around the world. We have clients in 90 countries. When it comes to storing gold and silver outside the banking system for high net worth individuals, we're probably the biggest in the world. So we store in a vault in Zurich, but that's up to we start at 500,000 Swiss francs or dollars. It's about, or euros. So it doesn't have to be exact, but at that level, 500,000. And then we have a vault in Singapore too, and then we have a vault in the Swiss Alps. This is one of the most secure, probably the most secure vault in the world. Nuclear bomb proof and earthquake proof, etc. It's a high minimum. It for bigger investors. It doesn't cost more, but it's more costly to store there. The minimum there is 5 million. So these are for bigger investors. But otherwise, in the other vaults is 500,000, as I said. And if people have less than that, or a little bit less, maybe we can help with. But if it's a lot less, we can give names of very good people who can help you. So that's what we do, and we give a very high level of personal service. It's hand-holding from the beginning to the end, and people can always be in touch with us and get advice. And we have a very, very good team servicing our clients.
Right to the next one, Egon. When I buy precious metals from von Greyerz, do I have to pay VAT? Can the metal be delivered? And if so, what about the VAT? I think that comes together with the tax-free storage.
Yes, so the VAT, as it is in English, value-added tax or Mehrwertsteuer, is of course levied on not levied on gold in Europe, so there is no VAT or tax on storing gold at all in any European country or buying or storing. But silver, the only way to acquire silver in Europe, because there is VAT on all metals, industrial metals and precious metals, except for gold, as I just said. But all the other metals, silver, platinum, palladium, there is VAT if you want to take home delivery. But we store it in bonded warehouses, that is in a duty-free zone, and therefore you can avoid the VAT. But that means so we store it on behalf of clients in their name, etc. They have direct access and come and see the gold and the silver. But if they want to take it home, then they have to pay the VAT on the silver, for example, or on the platinum. So most people don't, because VAT is paid in the country where you take it out. So if you take it out in Switzerland, it's 8%. If you take it in Germany, as you say, it's around 20%, and most other European countries is 20%. So it's not worth to take it out. I mean, if you want a few coins, silver coins, then you have to in your hand, then you have to pay the VAT. But that's the same all over Europe, of course. You can store it VAT free, and then we can sell it for you VAT free also.
Now a bit more general question, Egon. Mr. Morgan, my friend David Morgan of the Morgan Report, seems to believe that precious metal prices are likely to fall in the near future. I wouldn't say fall, but he is right now a bit cautious. Could you please share your opinion, Egon? The market is really hot.
Well, I know David Morgan, of course, and has got a fantastic knowledge in silver, especially. And of course, I'm so happy for him that at last the silver market is catching fire, and that we have all waited for a long time, and now it's coming, and it's coming in really with big bangs, and we are just starting. So coming back to the principal question. Are metals overbought? Is gold and silver overbought? I think we're now entering an era which is, as I have explained many times, is the end of a monetary era for the world as a whole, and especially the Western monetary system. And therefore, we are going to see an acceleration down in the currencies, in all money. And on the other side of that is, of course, precious metals that reflects what's happening to the value of money. So therefore, obviously, precious metals is normally stable purchasing power, but now I think they will go up more than the purchasing power because there are massive shortages in the world, and there is a lot of demand. I do not expect a correction at this point. Of course, there will be corrections on the way up to what I've said many times, multiples of the current levels. That is, both gold and silver will move up many times in relation to the price that they're at now. And I see this trend continuing for maybe up to 6 months before we have a proper correction. There'll be smaller corrections on the way, but the big one is not going to come until silver and gold have moved a lot higher. And just take silver first. I mean, I've recommended to have a bigger weighting of silver than we have recommended before, at least, say 30, even 35% of silver and the rest in gold. But I think silver has got tremendous potential. It's much more volatile and people have to be careful. But now the risk, except for short-term volatility, the risk in silver is that you admit that you missed the boat rather than that you try to finesse it. Therefore, you should own silver now. You should have a good amount of silver, and it looks like it could hit $200 in the next, let's say, 3 to 9 months. And so that's we already gone quickly from 30, 40, 50 to 70 almost now. I think that will continue. So I would not be out of the metals at this point. I would not try, as I said, to finesse it. I would own silver and good amount of silver. And gold is not going to move up as fast as silver, but it's still going to move up. And therefore, we will see both in gold and silver major advances in the next few months, in my view. And then at some point, let's say in 6 months' time, I don't know exactly when, but there will be a correction. In silver, the correction will be big, but the long-term trend is still up, and it's very hard, as I said, to get out when it's reaches at what you think is a top and get in again, because I think it's probably safer for long-term wealth preservation investors. It's better to just hold on to it right through the correction because you're going to see much higher levels after that. Just to explain, there are shortages of gold worldwide, and the 20% that Morgan Stanley has recommended to as an allocation to gold, which is total change from before. Before they virtually didn't recommend any gold, and now all of a sudden gold and silver, precious metals. 20% is very high, and of course there is no chance for the world to fulfill that 20% allocation because there isn't that much gold around. And because there's so much paper gold before that will ask for delivery, and they are not going to get delivery, and this is why we'll have the squeeze in gold, even more so for silver. So there will be a massive squeeze in silver also, and we could see panic days in silver in the next few months, and that's because of the massive paper silver outstanding as well as gold, but paper is a lot more, and the industrial of demand now in silver is 50%. It used to be 10% a few years ago. Now it's 50% of the total production. The production is very small. There's a deficit of silver every year that has to be made up in the futures market or by borrowing and lending, etc. And therefore, it's a very interesting market now to own physical only. Do not own any paper whatsoever in gold or silver. Hold physical that you know that you have access to yourself. You're going to see a very interesting period ahead of us right now. So, David, this time I agree with you most of the time, but I don't. Of course, we can have a correction, but I expect this market to continue overbought for longer than everybody could ever imagine.
We know from technology stocks that overbought market can last for a long time, but let's
Yes.
stay in Switzerland for a bit longer. You said we see the end of a financial era. That's true, and Switzerland stands out from the crowd as a more solid country. But really, here's the next question. How does Egon assess Switzerland's currency risk? As we know, Switzerland is a major holder of euro government bonds, by the way, also of stocks, international stocks. Banking secrecy has also been relaxed. How secure would tax-free warehouses be in the event of a crisis if, as we and Mr. Greyerz know, all currencies collapse?
Yes, that's a very good question. And the interesting thing is that Switzerland, of course, the Swiss National Bank, and I've written about that in the past, not lately, but in the past, is the world's biggest hedge fund. And their main position is currency positions, holding very long dollars and long euros. The purpose of that, which I don't agree with, but the purpose of that is to keep the Swiss franc relatively weak, because the biggest export partners of Switzerland, number one, is Germany. And therefore, in relation to the euro, Switzerland want to keep the Swiss franc relatively weak. But they don't succeed, of course. Why don't they succeed? With the simple reason that Switzerland is probably the best managed economy in the Western world. That means that Switzerland seldom has deficits. Normally, they run more a budget which is at zero, or maybe sometimes small deficits. Switzerland has the lowest national debt of any major Western economy, about 30% of GDP, 25-30% of GDP. And therefore, in spite of Switzerland trying to keep the Swiss franc weak, they don't succeed because it's, as I said, the best managed economy in the world, and certainly in the Western world. I expect the Swiss franc to remain strong. Now, relative to gold, all currencies go down, but the Swiss franc hasn't gone down in relation to gold or silver as much as other currencies. All the Swiss franc is strong and will remain strong. It's preferable to hold gold or silver instead of Swiss francs, definitely, because currencies are on their way to zero. So, but Swiss franc much more slowly and probably will not go all the way to zero. But when it comes to storing gold or silver in Switzerland, that has nothing to do with the currency, of course. You store physical gold, nothing to do with the banking system. You hold it outside the banking system in private vaults, like we do for clients, and therefore you're not touched by the banking system or the financial system. Yes, the Swiss financial system will also have problems, like the rest of the world. It probably won't be as big as others, but when you hold gold or silver, it doesn't matter to you. This is why you hold physical and store it outside the banking system. And as I said, Switzerland is probably politically the best country in the world. They have direct democracy and as I said, also very sound finances. So I think people should feel very happy to store it there, as long as they have direct control of it themselves, not with the banks, definitely not.
Egon, now a very interesting question and a personal statement. Somebody is writing here. I followed Egon's recommendation and sold all my shares I have saved for my retirement in 6 years' time and invested the entire sum in 21,000 ounces of silver, as the silver ratio indicated to me that silver was undervalued compared to gold. So far, I have not regretted listening to Egon, and I thank him for that. However, I now also see opportunities in energy and oil companies, as oil appears to be cheap to me in gold terms, and associated to stocks, it also pays good dividends. The money is my retirement fund and I don't want to risk it anymore. On the other hand, a currency collapse is probably imminent. I would be interested to hear Egon's opinion on how he would act in my place in order to maintain the purchasing power of my ounces today in 6 years' time. What's your suggestion? By the way, I also think that energy is something you can use to diversify now.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely right. No, first of all, we have to remember that this is a dynamic market. I've said many times forecasting is a mug's game, which means it's a very difficult game, and only fools try to forecast the price of gold or silver at a certain point in time, like in 6 years' time. So I focus more on direction and risk. Now, to me, the risk to holding any currency is massive. So you shouldn't hold any paper money or any government bonds at all. I think general stocks are also going to come down dramatically against gold and silver. You see already now, you see how the ratio of the Standard and Poor against gold has broken all limits and is on its way down much, much lower. I think stocks will go down by 90% against gold and by more against silver. So definitely better to hold precious metals than to hold stocks or other paper assets. If you want to diversify, yes, I mean holding 100% in silver, I think is at this point not high risk, because I think silver is going to go a lot higher against everything. When we get to the first peak, and whether that's sometimes in during 26, we probably will do, and where the correction starts from, because silver has gone up so much and so fast, and everybody who's been investing in silver for over a longer period, they know that the corrections are also wild. It becomes a real roller coaster ride, and so if you want to sleep well at night, you move some of your silver into gold when let's say the ratio comes down to, for example, the old level from 2011 of 30, that is a gold silver ratio. Gold divided by silver comes down to 30. Now, and that's, for example, an area where we'll stop for a while. I don't think it will stop there. I think the ratio will go down to its old historical one of 15 or even lower. If you can ride it out, then you can stay, but you will have massive volatility. The ratio might go down to 30 and back up to 50 again, or even higher before it comes down again. As I said, if you want to sleep at night, you diversify. So you can diversify to gold, which in my view is the safest, because you're outside the banking system, you have direct access to it yourself, you're not part of the financial system, which you will be when you hold stocks. So if there is a problem in the financial system, you might have a difficulty getting hold of your stocks because the system, it might be lost in the system, at least temporarily, or banks might even have used it as security for something else. So therefore, if you want to be absolutely a high level of wealth preservationist, you stick with your precious metals. Now, I totally agree that energy is looks like a very good investment now. And I think, yes, energy will go up. Now, you could already look at uranium, for example. That's been a terrific investment in the last year or even few years. And it's likely to continue because a lot of countries are investing in nuclear energy, and there is shortages of uranium. So I think, to me, that's still the best energy investment there is. And China are building as many nuclear plants as they can right now. So that's a good. There are many good stocks in uranium. So yes, definitely. Oil also, I think I prefer uranium, but oil is also and gas is also going to do well. But as I said, they're not the way you hold them in the financial system. They're not the same degree of wealth preservation. Therefore, if you're worried about the world's financial system and want to be absolutely safe, you hold your reserve assets in the form of precious metals outside the banking system with direct access. If you want to venture into other things, yes, I agree. Energy looks good now, uranium, oil, and potentially gas also. So it's a question of how much risk you want to add to your portfolio. If you want totally safe, you stay with the metals. If you want a little bit extra fun, if you want, go into uranium, go into some oil stocks, etc.
We stay with this topic, gold-silver ratio, Egon. The question is, can you perhaps give some tips for those who are looking to take profits, or does it make more sense to simply rebalance according to the gold-silver ratio? In part, you answered it already. As a general rule, you should only convert part of your holdings into fiat currencies after the currency reform.
Yes, that last point, very important point. In my view, I would stay out of the financial system with the majority of my funds until the financial system has been restructured. I think there will not be an orderly reset that some people talk about, because there are so many forces here that want to decide what's going to happen. Because I mean the East and China is now becoming the dominant factor in this game, and therefore America will have less and less to say about it. And so the American hegemony is gradually, or not gradually, quite quickly declining, actually. So I don't think there'll be any orderly reset that any country can dictate. I think it'll be disorderly, and it's not until that financial system has settled down, a new banking system set up, and it may be new currencies, and all the global debt, whatever level you want to, if you include derivatives, I think it's in the quadrillions. I think all the derivatives are not reported properly, especially the ones outside the financial system. So therefore, I think there is a lot of debt outstanding, and not until that will never be repaid. Of course, it will just implode. But remember, when the debts implode, so will also the assets backed by the debt. So we will see a massive decline of all asset prices, and relative to that, of course, the precious metals will do better. They might come down also in that, but relatively, so from point of view purchasing power, they're going to do a lot better. So I think you are in no hurry to change your assets from, say, precious metals, or if you want to hold some stocks and as I said, energy, etc. You are in no hurry to change that and put the money into the banking system. I would say that whether that's, I don't think 5 years is enough, 10 years or more, I would say it's going to take before there's any chance of a better system that you can trust and put your money into again.
Still the silver topic, Egon. There is 15 times more silver than gold in the earth. Will the gold-silver ratio fall back to 1 to 15? You also answered that partly already. Or will the states freeze it at, for instance, 1 to 50? How strong can market forces be here, considering that the world cannot do without silver? So as you said it already, we expect this gold-silver ratio to drop massively.
The world can't do without silver. As I said, the industrial use has gone from 10 to 50% in the last 5 years, and that's, as we all know, I mean, it's solar cells, it's car batteries, and car batteries are going to increase dramatically in production also. Samsung is coming out with a new battery now that can be charged in 10, 12 minutes. And you can drive a car for, I think, almost 1,000 kilometers, 900 kilometers now on that battery. So that will most probably be in the future. There'll be more car batteries produced, more solar cells, and then, of course, the whole electronic industry needs silver. So the demand for silver will only go up. As I said, there's a massive shortage of silver, and there'll be silver prices will have to go up substantially to satisfy this demand, and still there'll be shortages. I think this will continue for a very long time, and sure there will be downturn in the world, and in industries will suffer for a while. But at the same time, remember, silver will also be, silver is poor man's gold, although it's going to be soon worth a lot more or cost a lot more. And therefore, people will buy silver for investment purposes, for wealth protection purposes. I expect the silver price to be maintained for a very long time. But with, again, I point out, massive volatility. The ratio, yeah, it will certainly go down. It might stop at 30 for a while, maybe not for very long. And then I'm sure it'll be on its way to 15, which has been the historical average. And it's about, the production of gold and silver is about 15 to 1 also. That ratio is a credible ratio, but I could see it also going down to 10, for example, the ratio, because of the demand for silver. So yes, it'll be, the next few years will be the era of silver, definitely. But again, I need to point it out, it will be a roller coaster ride, and you will have quite a few frightening corrections the other way, but you got to hold tight then.
I got a question about a possible danger when the industry weakens, demand for silver also declines. Could the price of silver then also collapse, given that silver is largely an industrial metals? You just said that. Isn't a depression like the one in the 1930s also a threat to the price of silver?
Depression is certainly a threat to all asset values. So if you have a depression, as I said before, and if your debts collapse and asset values collapse, of course, all asset prices will come down. But again, I point out that then relative to that, gold will do better. So you're still, from the point of view of purchasing power, I remember that everything then will become cheaper, and you will still have gold and silver that will be worth more than anything else. So therefore, you will be fine in purchasing power. Although in the nominal price, they might very well come down, because if you have a depression, yes, there will be less demand, but it won't collapse. It will only collapse in nominal terms, but in real terms, in purchasing power, I don't expect it to collapse, because, as I said, prices of everything will come down. The depression will be preceded by most probably massive inflation and money printing. So we're going to come down from much higher levels when this happens, because you will probably, we're already seeing the beginning of almost, not quite hyperinflation yet, but very high inflation, as expressed by the value of the metals. No government, nobody tells you that actually is not. It's not prices. Inflation doesn't mean prices are going up. It means the value of paper money is going down, and that's what we're seeing now. So it's not like gold and silver going up. They are going up relatively, yes. Well, but if you look at what you pay in the shops and the prices for everything, it's going up daily. It's ridiculous how much prices are going up. So that government's call, as I said, the inflation, but it's only their government's extremely poor management of the economy that creates what they call inflation, which is actually just a collapse of the currencies. But that happens at the end of every monetary era. So, if you're in government, you should know that, you should actually manage it accordingly. Let's again come back to Switzerland. Swiss inflation is always the lowest, certainly in Europe or in the Western world. And because they manage their economy better than anybody else. So, but sadly, the West in general, US, EU, etc., they want to promise everything, and they can never fulfill the promises without just printing and creating massive amounts of money, which destroys the economy of the country and the currency also, of course. And that's what happens, especially now at the end of the monetary era. And that's what we're going to see, sadly. It's not going to be easy times, Jan. Definitely not.
Different topic, coins, Egon. How can you tell when the time is right to invest in more expensive collector coins, i.e. legal tender coins with a collector's premium? When demand has fallen sharply, I think the time is ripe. Or will this play a lesser role in the future, as the prices would be unaffordable for collectors? I did it personally always that way. If I got collector's coins with very little premium, then I bought them. But in those monetary stress times, I wouldn't pay a big premium and take the coins when the premium is low. What's your suggestion?
No, I agree with that. We are not specialists on collector's coins. We don't buy or sell them for clients. For us, it's pure wealth preservation and looking at the market value of gold and silver. I agree, as gold and silver prices go up dramatically, that premium is going to virtually disappear because the prices are so high and no one is going to pay extra on top of that for collector's coin. I won't say no one, but fewer people will pay an extra premium. So from my point of view, in this era now that we're going to see collector's coins are, yes, they might have a slight surplus value, but it's not of major interest. The major rise we will see in the normal metals, not in the collector's coins, in my view.
Now, also an interesting topic, and that brings us a little bit back to David Morgan, mining stocks, Egon. What are the most important points that a novice, a new stock investor who has only invested physically up to now, needs to consider in order to be able to assess mining stocks?
This is, a very good question, because if you look at mining stocks now against physical gold or physical silver, mining stocks are broken out. I mean, they've been an awful investment for decades, but now actually they're breaking out and they are going to go up faster than physical gold and silver. We are not specialists in mining stocks. I have a few personally, but that's nothing compared to my silver and gold holdings, and therefore we are, and also we can't give investment advice. So that therefore I wouldn't. Yes, if you want to own stocks, but again we got the proviso that I said before. You're in the financial system then, so you got to remember that. So you have a higher level of risk than if you hold it in physical form in your own possession or in a safe vault where you have access to it. But potentially, if you buy the right ones, they will go up many times more than the physical gold and silver. That's absolutely right. I think, as I'm not going to give any general or specific advice here, what I would do is follow the leaders, follow the ones who've been successful for a very long time. Listen to people like Rick Rule or Eric Sprott, who understand this market. Eric now loves, of course, silver, and so he's got a lot of silver exposure. We actually had a dinner in Zurich a few weeks ago where we had Eric Sprott and Rick Rule and Pierre Lassonde. Pierre Lassonde is the founder of Franco-Nevada, which is the most successful, extremely successful royalty company. Now, Franco-Nevada has done well for a long, long time and will continue to do well. But the good stocks, of course, are not cheap stocks. Another group of people who do very well always is the Lundin family. Lundin was a Swedish family who moved to Switzerland. But there was I know the founder Adolf. He died sadly, and his son died recently or a couple of years ago in cancer. But they're a big family, and they are still managing the business extremely well. So you should follow the successful people. That's what I'm saying. Listen to them. Most of the stocks in precious metal, in mining stocks, are going to fail and are not good stocks. Every stock will go up in the euphoria that we will see now. But you should buy the quality ones, and it's worthwhile actually buying the expensive ones, and the bigger ones if you don't know anything about them. But otherwise, as I said, listen to people who really understand this market and are successful in the market.
Yes, the danger is especially in the exploration stocks, Egon. A question that fits to this one: my silver has doubled as silver mines have. Where is the leverage? Does the market still not believe in a sustainable price stabilization? Manipulation of silver mines? So I wouldn't agree on that. We have the leverage is there, but not as high as, for instance, in 2011. That's true.
Yes, and of course now, with this massive rise in price and the cost of production is not going up anywhere near as fast now. So the leverage is that these companies many of them, especially if they are producing or near producing, they are very, very, very profitable. And for a lot of these companies, this level of profitability is not expressed in the share price yet. That's why there is massive potential. And as I said, if I'm right that the silver price will go up substantially, and also the gold price, then there is a big upside in all of these stocks. Listen to the experts, study it, and then buy safe stocks. Exploration companies, you really have to understand what you do when you go invest in someone who are promising that they'll find some gold or silver, but it isn't then yet, and that's a much higher risk, and a lot of these have problems. So I would stick to the safe ones.
A final question for today, and a special question for you with your close ties to Sweden, Egon. Is it worth buying a property in the Swedish countryside as emergency retreat?
That's a good question, isn't it? Yes, of course. I have the fortune. I was born I was born in Sweden. I was born with a Swedish and a Swiss passport. At birth, as I said. So I have a real affinity with both countries. Now I would say over time Switzerland has been much better managed, and politically is the best country, as I said. But Sweden is a wonderful country. There's so much nature. Not a lot of people live there. It's a very big country. If you go north of Stockholm is in the bottom third of Sweden, so it's still a lot of land above that, and that land is mainly lakes and forests. Lakes and forests. There are over 100,000 lakes in Sweden, and of course it's surrounded by also the of course the Baltic Sea and the Atlantic, etc. So it's a great country for nature lovers. And if you buy something, not in the southern part, which is more expensive, but if you buy something in higher up or in the middle, you get a lot of all the prices have gone up like everywhere else, but you get a lot of house and land for your money. So I would say, sure, Sweden has had its problems too with the migration, etc. But there are so many wonderful and beautiful spots in Sweden at a low price and very safe also. So definitely, I would recommend people to go and look at Sweden. I know that a lot of Germans bought houses in Sweden, for example, and they find very cheap, and the countryside is very special, especially for nature lovers. So yeah, don't buy up all of Sweden, but buy a little bit. Because it is after all, in spite of some negative media, etc., it is a great country.
Egon, thank you. That was the final question, and we closed the year. It was really a golden year for all of us, and to the people who listened to us for a couple of years now. I wish you and your family, of course, a good new year. The same to our audience, and I hope we can continue next year as long as the chaos persists, right? Happy New Year, Egon.
Thank you, Jana, and thank you for it's been, as you said, a great year. We've had a good cooperation. I love helping people to preserve wealth, and obviously questions and answers helps with that too. We will have in the precious metals a very good year again, and it'll be for many years, but especially this coming year is going to continue to accelerate before it pauses for a while, so people are going to do okay in that area, but the world will have more and more problems. Stock markets at some point will start going down rapidly during 26, in my view. But the most important thing is, I always say, help people around you, help family, help friends. Enjoy company with other people, enjoy nature, and not enjoy books and music. There are so many free things in the world that you don't need a lot of money for, and that's where we should get enjoyment from, and not from just counting our money, which is pretty boring. So I wish everyone also a wonderful holiday and for and Christmas and New Year, and I look forward to speaking next year again, Jan.
Absolutely, Egon. Thank you a lot. Till next year, and grüezi. Bye bye.